There we go. All right, so we're going to jump into smart analytics and talk a little bit about the history and a little bit about why it's so important for what we do and give you some perspective as you look at things as to what you're really, kind of looking at. So here's the problem. When it comes to smart analytics, over 26,000 different business categories use smart analytics to try and figure out how their marketing is doing. And really, smart analytics, honestly, is designed to show how your website's performing more than anything. But people have tried to figure out how to use it more and more to develop, some insights into their business. But when you look at particularly the RV and automotive business, they're very unique. And so why wouldn't we want something that would be more unique? So a few years ago, it's been about 3 years now, we just recognized that the dealers were super frustrated because all they were getting at the end of the month was a data dump. I mean, just pages and pages and pages of data. And at the end it was, okay, what do we do with this? What does it mean? What should we do different? And you really couldn't answer the question because it just didn't provide the information to really say what you should try and do. All it did was kind of report on what happened in the previous month. And what we looked at, and it started probably 4 years ago at a seminar at NADA, and it really opened our eyes to the fact that a click is not a click. All clicks are not created equal. And it's if there's anything true in the digital world, this is the ultimate truth that you build up your strategies from. But what's happening now is a lot of companies out there are only providing a single tool, a little silver lure. Here, I'm going to provide you this many clicks. I'm going to get you this many clicks to your used car inventory. And it's all about, just getting clicks, but they're not all created equal. So when you look at some stats sometimes that say clicks are up 15%, what does that really mean? I don't know what it means. Or I got 2,000 more clicks. Is that good or is that bad? I don't know. So what we need to start thinking about, and what smart analytics has allowed us to do, is really start thinking about quality. Can we determine the quality of our activities versus the quantity? Because quantity can be totally worthless. We used to laugh about in the old days when all we did was TV promotions and, weekend promotions at dealerships. If somebody wanted a whole bunch of traffic, well, we could get a rock band and a bunch of food out there and get, 3,000 people at the dealership. Yeah, hey, you got all the ups you wanted. We got you 3,000 ups, but not one of them was an actual buyer. And that's the same thing that happens with clicks. So our goal is we want quantity, but we've got to have quality. And so we developed smart analytics. And the one thing we realized was that the vehicle detail page view, and this comes from several different sources, really ends up being the only single thing everybody that buys a vehicle does that's similar. They come into the website from different Facebook or organic or direct. They get recommended from a friend. They bought there before. But in the end, everybody funnels down into looking at vehicle detail page views. And our job as an agency is to get as many people deep in the sales funnel to our website so that we have the opportunity to be considered to do business with them. Because here's what's happened, and this is an old chart, and it's probably gotten even way worse now that we're in COVID world and just advancing. But in 1980, people visited 10 dealerships before they bought a vehicle. In 2015, it was down to 2. Now it's probably down to about 1.5. And so what that means is that if we're not winning the battle online and in our marketing efforts, we're not even getting under consideration. We don't even have a chance to do business with that person unless we're winning this battle on consideration. And so we've got to be able to get as many people deep in that purchase funnel to our website. And how do we evaluate that? Are we actually driving that quality? It's through vehicle detail page views. And that allows us as a marketing company to be able to determine, are we doing the right things? This was a study that was done several years ago, but it got us working on that. This VDP exposure is really critical. This shows you just a chart created by a website company that looked at over 2 million visitors or vehicles, I think it was, and they determined that if a vehicle had less than 20 pages, it took about 135 days for it to sell. If it had 20 to 30 vehicle detail page views, it was 96. And if it was over 30 page views, it was 76 days to sell. So it goes, just makes common sense that the more people look at a vehicle detail page view, the more pages it has, the better chances you're going to find the right buyer for the right vehicle, right? So just getting people to the homepage of a website really is of no value, or even the search page is not of no value, but it's not as good as getting the person to actually take the step. Now, Google about 3 years ago came up with a 90-day purchase, 60-day purchase path. We modified this a little bit just for the RV side. It was really more of an automotive, but it's pretty much exactly the same. If you look at the very end of this chart, filled out a form, test drove a vehicle, visited a dealership, and probably in here also would be, you know, text and phone. But you see all these buying activities all happen at the end. It starts here where people start looking at, you know, manufacturer sites, they get information on Facebook, they watch some videos. But the couple of things that happen is they all look at vehicle detail pages, and they look at it a few times. In fact, you could argue, you know, they look at it when they click on an email, you know, and so forth and so on. But in the end, they've done all this before they get to here at the end of the purchase funnel. So if we're not winning in this area, we're not going to get an opportunity. So, you know, here's kind of the mindset: which vehicle is best? Is it right for me? Can I afford it? Where should I buy? All right. So all of these pieces right in here, and then am I getting a good deal, right? Those are all the things that end up, you know, helping somebody buy what they'd like to do. So when you look at smart analytics, here's the piece that's super important, because we talked about the data dump. Okay, here's all the data. They would look at us and say, what do we do with it? What are we going to do different? And it was like, well, let's keep doing the same thing, you know. Let's spend more money. Maybe we'll get more clicks. But Google Analytics truly is a lag indicator. It's telling you what happened. It's telling you what happened. It's not telling you what's going to happen or where you're headed. So if you're doing certain activities, a leading indicator indicates that you're going to have some sort of result. So the more quality vehicle detail pages we create, that really is a leading indicator that the dealer should be selling more vehicles within the next 30 days. Because you got a whole bunch of vehicle detail pages today doesn't necessarily mean you're going to sell vehicles today, because it's a process of 30 to 60 days, depending on who, you know, what you think the buying path, their buying pattern is. People start looking. You know, we've studied this from a sales standpoint as well, and we've clearly seen that when a vehicle sells, it takes about, you know, 60 days when it starts getting VDPs till the end of when it's sold. Certainly there are some that sell faster, and certainly today the vehicles are selling much faster. But what the smart analytics, so what we've done is we went into Google Analytics and we created our own dashboard that is pulling out all of the vehicle detail page views based on the vehicle, individual vehicle, based on the media channel that drove that vehicle detail page. Now here's an important point on this. If somebody comes in on Facebook ad today and they end up going to a vehicle detail page view while they're on that site, in that session, it will be credited to Facebook. If they come back the next day and they just type in the dealership's name and they go to a vehicle detail page view, it'll be credited to direct. And then the third day they click on a paid search ad and they go in, it will be credited to paid search. If I go in off a paid search ad and I look at a vehicle detail page view and then I end up looking at 10 other vehicle detail page views, paid search is going to get credited 10 vehicle detail page views, because the person clearly is in there and they're interested and they're shopping and they're looking hard. So that's an important thing to just remember as you look at this. But it does give us the opportunity to understand what's happening and what we're doing as marketers, because it's really, really pretty important. Now, here's some pieces that can cause problems, and I'm going to show you a couple examples. And Ann and I have fought this battle many times with the Superior Auto Group in Cincinnati, simply because they tend to like to jump in a bunch of third-party people with little widgets and gadgets that, you know, sell them on stuff. And we've had to, you know, it's been a great tool to be able to show them how they've been taken and it's not working so well. But it really comes down to, a vehicle detail page view is really kind of like a ballot box, and you can stuff that ballot box. Just like I said, I could stuff that dealership, with 1,000 people coming to watch a concert. They're not really interested in buying a car, but I stuffed the dealership lot with a bunch of people, right? I can do the same thing by sending every click of bait ads, display ads that say, hey, look at these, fancy homes, and it takes them to a vehicle detail page view and it gets recorded as a vehicle. You can really bait and switch people into a lot of different ways, and you can stuff the VDP. So a lot of companies will say, hey, look how we're doing on VDPs, but they don't have any integrity in their system and their process. So our strategic thinking is, we need to make the customer ask to click on the VDP. We may send them to the search page with most of our ads and most of our activity, but then they're going to have to make the conscious decision to go to a vehicle detail page. That ensures that we're getting a quality person that's decided to take that activity themselves. Now, there are cases where we send them straight to a VDP page, and a lot of like retargeting. If they've already, been to a vehicle and we're doing a, retargeting carousel ad dynamic back through Facebook, and it's showing them the same vehicles, they looked at before, and they click on it, it goes back to the VDP. That's okay. I mean, we've already engaged them. They're deep in the funnel. But most of the time we try to stay where we're, we go to the search page and then, ask them to raise their hand and say, hey, I want to look at a vehicle detail page. So it's very important that, a lot of companies will stuff the ballot box. We really make an effort not to have that happen. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So here's a couple of examples of some stuffing of the ballot boxes. I grabbed a couple of these. I didn't want to go into too deep, but this was an effort we were looking at. And there was a company, I'm not going to even say their name, and you can if you want.
Was that Lot Links, I think?
Yeah. So they're a used car company that goes in and says, okay, we're going to take your 30 used cars and we're going to put $50 on each one, and we're going to shoot ads out through Facebook, and we're going to send people right back to that vehicle. Well, what ends up happening is their process takes the most effective ad and puts more money toward that vehicle, really, or shows it the most. So in this particular case, this dealership was spending about $3,000 on used car marketing with this company. 75% of the used car VDPs went to this one vehicle. So they were spending $3,000. 75% of the VDPs created by this company went to this vehicle that was being sold for $3,500. And you can see down at the bottom, in August, this vehicle got 11,041, July 795. So that's an incredible amount of VDPs all going to one vehicle that they're not going to make any money on anyways. But the company was telling them, hey, look at all the VDPs we're getting for you in your used cars. They'd show used cars and show, 3,000 VDPs. But the problem was, most of them were going to this $3,000 vehicle that nobody really wanted. So we were able to show this to the client and say, hey, look, these guys are, basically taking advantage of you, and they're not reporting, true information. Here's another example of one, which is even worse.
Sorry, Ron, it's a very famous thing in the internet. It's called clickbait. It happens not just in the auto industry. There's tons of sites, which play the arbitrage game. They try to buy it like really cheap clicks and sell the clicks at expensive. So that's the game they try to play. So more than a marketing agency, they are a arbitrage company, buying and selling clicks.
Thank you, Avi. Yeah, and this one here was even worse. I didn't get too deep into it, but I just want to show you a little different thing, like out of Smart Analytics. So we pulled up the used car VDPs, and you can see it gives you a little pie chart, and then it's got a little graph chart. So this is a Hyundai dealer, and so all of a sudden he has this Intrepid, which I'm guessing most of us don't even know what manufacturer makes it, right? Mitsubishi. Anybody ever heard of Mitsubishi? Anyway, so you can see it's way, it's 40% of the VDPs for that period of time for the month. This company was driving to one non-brand vehicle, wasn't even a Hyundai, and it was being sold for $1,995, and they probably spent $2,000, probably $1,500, I think, went to this one vehicle. So, I mean, it was an absolute waste of, just a disaster.
Yeah.
But
Just
there's
on, if you see, sorry, at the end it says nj.com. That's a pretty big company, Advanced Media, who owns nj.com. And if you look at the ad, it's a native ad. So that's how the process. They're not buying the display ads because there the CTR is low because it's more genuine. But it's a native ad that you see even on CNN.com. You'll see on the bottom of the page all the native ads. So they buy it on these big ones, the nj.com. And when they're trying to tell the clients that we are only buying on Forbes.com or nj.com, so it looks more legitimate.
NJ.com was not involved. That's just a screenshot.
Okay.
Ignore that.
But even if you see like they do that, you'll see it. The idea is that they buy a few ads on premium sites, but the rest of them they don't show where they're buying. People will show that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of different ways this is being done. And again, if you just look as a click and you really don't have the tools to analyze it a little bit deeper, you can really be fooled into thinking, oh, these guys are great. Let's keep spending more money with them, when all of a sudden you pull back the curtain and, oh, there's the Wizard of Oz, right? And it's not what it seemed to be. So stuffing the ballot box is really easy to do, but with smart analytics, we can really dive in and find out real quickly if that's happening, with the third-party vendors. So
you see this a lot in SEO as well.
Did you say something, Patrick?
I said you see this a lot in SEO as well.
Yeah.
SEO services. Yeah.
So here's something I don't know, Ann, what have you been doing almost 3 years now, I think. We've been tracking by the Superior Auto Group, by store and by as an auto group. We've been tracking vehicle detail page views by sold unit, new and used, and then as a whole group. So we're doing it by Honda, we're doing it by Acura, we're doing it by Hyundai. This happens to be the Honda store. And you can see how consistent it is that, it's right in that 85 range VDPs it takes to sell a Honda. And this has been going on for 3 years. But then you see some spikes now and then that there's a lot more VDPs than like this one right here. And then you might, you've got a couple of blips here. Now, just real quick, this one right here. So we got a lot of VDPs, a lot of people looking at the Honda cars on site, looking at the VDPs, and then, wow, was this really an unsuccessful month? Because were we doing something wrong with marketing? Well, this month here, actually, they had 3 huge snowstorms, and they were all on Saturdays in January that year. So all these people that would have normally been out on Saturday or Sunday to go buy a vehicle were stuck in their homes and couldn't get out and didn't want to go out. But it didn't mean there wasn't a lot of leading activity going on for the dealership. And you can see how it transformed into more sales here, less VDPs per sale as it moved on. But this spike wasn't that anybody did anything wrong. It was weather. This one over here in, gosh, I guess it's not on here. There's another one where Chris Heck went on vacation right in the middle of July for 10 days. And all of a sudden the VDPs went way up in the month of July versus June, May, August, September, because when the chief was out of the store, everybody wasn't quite as motivated to get deals done and work as hard. So the number of VDPs, went up. So it's an interesting thing to look at. And sometimes it can be marketing. Like if all of a sudden you stuff the ballot box, and you really have a bunch of crappy VDPs, you're going to have this, cause and effect. You're going to notice it and say, okay, what's going on? What are we doing? But here's the thing that you need to be put in your holster, if you would, to protect yourself as a marketing company, Wheeler Advertising. Because bottom line is, if you have integrity with how you're marketing to people and where you're sending them to, search pages and VDP pages, it really is the true leading activity indicator. And we've seen, as Ann and I have tracked it for 3 years, that it really does work. It really does predict, for the most part, how you're going to sell. Now, there's some outliers that are going to change that outcome. And this is something you just need to realize. Okay, here's the things a VDP doesn't do. A VDP doesn't answer a text from a customer. A VDP doesn't answer the phone on 2 or 3 rings when a customer calls the dealership to try and get a price on something. A VDP doesn't follow up on a lead that just came in on the internet. A VDP doesn't order the right inventory before it hits the lot. A VDP doesn't price the product or even show, in some cases, a price on the website. And a VDP doesn't have, doesn't have the ability to be nice to a customer. and treat a customer with respect. All of these, we can do an amazing job with high quality VDP traffic to the website. And if the dealership isn't doing these things properly, our number of VDPs per sale is going to be higher than it should be. So when somebody says, "Yeah, we had all these VDPs, but we didn't sell anything," it's like, well, maybe you ought to answer the phone on the third ring instead of the 12th. Maybe you shouldn't put people on hold for 2 minutes before you get back to them. Maybe you ought to look at what your competitors are pricing vehicles at and price them properly so you're competitive. And maybe you ought to be nice to the customer and not tell them to get the hell out of the showroom. That stuff does happen. So remember when somebody's, and it doesn't seem to happen too much anymore, but it did early when we were really pushing this. People would say, VDPs don't mean anything. Well, yeah, they mean everything, but how you treat the customer and how you price your units really ends up how you sell, how many you sell. Make sense? I see Nedrick shaking her head. Yeah. She gets it for sure. Okay. So our goal here is to think strategically, have a leading activity indicator that, really tracks information that's super important to the RV and the automotive industry. We've built our own dashboard. It keeps getting better and better. It's been driven in the last, Avi, is it the last year or the last 2 years by, Avi and his team. He took it over after we had another person running it for about 1.5 years. And the key here is that, we're going to follow things by the individual vehicle and by the channel that created the vehicle detail page view for that vehicle. And our whole goal here is, can we find cause and effect evaluations that help us say, well, I need to do this for my marketing. So when you look at VDP data, it's a lot easier to say, okay, what does it mean and what do I want to do differently? All right, so that's the beauty of it from a marketing standpoint. So let's look at smart analytics and just kind of walk through it a little bit. Any questions from anybody at this point? Nope. Makes sense?
Yeah.
So this is the login page, if you haven't seen it yet. And you can click in your username. I got mine saved. Log in. Up here at the top, you're going to see analytics, competitive intelligence, offering, reporting, VDPs. We're just going to talk about analytics today. So I click on analytics and it pops up the dashboard. And what you see here is basically every bit of information on every client we have in here, whether it's auto or RV at this point. And it's going to be basically a 30-day picture down here in this graph. You can scroll down further and there's more information. But as somebody interested in a particular client or things, you need to filter this a little bit more. So starting at the top, we won't look at the compare dealer or compare data at this point, but here's your date range. So you can come in and you can select a unique date range. We've got 7 days last month, this year, or you can custom range it. If I wanted to pick, June 1 through August 20th, I come over here and I hit apply, and it's going to repopulate it based on that range. And you can see here, it comes down here from June, July into August. And you can see, it peaks in here. So as you're looking at a client sometimes, as an individual client or maybe even as a grouping of clients, an aggregated grouping of clients, you can see some trend line here that shows something's going on here. Is it just lack of inventory? Is it lack of end of summer, people going back to school? There's a little less, people online looking at vehicle detail pages across all of our clients, RV or automotive. If I come and, if I want to look at this a little differently, then I can come and say, I just want to look at RV. So now I want to see, what does this look like with RV? And I can come down and take a look at RV, and it says, which is kind of normal. Generally, it starts to drop off in August. It's just a cyclical thing because it's a heavy summer-driven vehicle for a lot of families, right? They're going to start looking at it really heavy in March and April, buy during those months. And, come August, it slows down a little bit, but it's still good traffic. We're still doing quite well. But you can see it's naturally, coming down a little bit in terms of aggregated vehicle detail page views. This next one chart over here, we actually have just introduced SRPs as well. And I know for all of us that were on the call that Larry put together on Monday, we were talking about used cars, and trying to, some of the things we needed to do to track, maybe track SRPs a little bit more because of, the cards that were being thrown. So somebody put an obstacle up, and we start tracking SRPs, and so that's going to give us some different opportunities there to look at data strategically. So you could look at that if there was a reason to. You can click on SRP and go from there. Now, as we get down to this next grouping of conditions, if you'd like to call that. Now, this field down here where it says active data fields, as you click on different things up here, it'll let you know what's active. So currently everything is active for it. So if I pick say I'm going to pick an RV dealer here, let me pick Bill Thomas Campers. So I click on that. Now it's going to tell me, here's the dealer's name, and all the rest of this information is fairly active. I can come through and say, well, I'm really interested in, we're putting a lot of money, let's say in paid search on travel trailers. I think I want to see what the vehicle detail page views, how they're trending with travel trailers, and I can click on travel trailers only. And it's going to show me Bill Thomas's travel trailer activity. Now that's all VDPs, which is okay, right? I mean, it's a good thing to look at. But if you really wanted to get down into the nitty gritty, you could start with marketing channel and say, I just want to look at paid search, and click on paid search here. And now it's just going to show me new and used travel trailers, VDPs, created by somebody clicking on a paid search ad in that session. Now remember, somebody can click on a paid search ad and then 2 days later come back and direct, and it's going to be recorded as direct, which is okay. But just kind of remember that a little bit. So we can look at this. Now, if you wanted to come down here a little further, you could see, which make is getting the most of the traffic, and this is Grand Design. You can come down and see the exact type of unit. It's called Imagine. Over here, you got the pie chart. And if you want to get into the raw data, you can come down here and see how it's trending by month, the VDPs for that particular product. So there's a lot of great information you can look at there. If you're looking at Ford, and so I just clicked over, I just had another tab open, but here's Ford. So I clicked on Ford. All I wanted to do is look at all the Ford dealers we have in the system right now. And I just want to see what does it look like from an F-150 standpoint, traffic-wise. Seems to be staying pretty consistent. You can come down and look at the raw numbers, and you can see even in August to the time period we're at, it seems to be tracking pretty well with the other months in total VDPs for F-150. At some point, as we see inventory increasing at dealerships, we'll start to see this go up like this, because there's going to be more vehicles for more people to look at. It's going to create more vehicle detail page views. And many of you have heard, us talking about the RV industry, and let me clear these out real quick. And the boom it's under, even though we've had still challenging with I'm moving too fast, Avi. It's still circling. I'm just going to refresh it here. Yeah, I'll just go over to this one.
We're increasing the server, so it's gonna on the weekend, because for the starting of the month, because before people didn't go to we didn't use the analytics as much, and as we have like 3 years of data, need to archive the 2019. We don't use 2019 anymore, right?
No, very rarely, no. And I don't think, don't. Somebody might.
Yeah, so I need to ask everyone if they still need the 2019 as much.
My clients asked for 2019 because 2020 was the pandemic. So I'm still comparing all of my clients to 2019.
Okay. So I think so. Like we just need to play with the data, because the data is getting bigger and bigger for the 3 years. So that's when the first thing I'm trying to do is that this time, that at least the first 10 days of the month, it's more stable,
So I just wanted to show you this real quick in terms of talk about leading activity indicators. This is January 2020. And so this was traffic that was going through February, and this was very good. I mean, it was a nice bump up of activity and interest in the RV business compared to the year over year. So, I mean, this was really good. And then all of a sudden the pandemic here in March hit in and everything crashed, and everybody, you know, their whole dealerships were closed in April. And I wrote an article, I think about on this date right here, that said, look out, this is going to be the biggest boom in the RV industry you've ever seen, because the leading activity indicator was this that followed. Look at all the people looking at vehicle detail pages with the same group of dealers over this period of time. So the industry was up, oh gosh, I don't know, 90% or 100%, or I mean, just crazy numbers. But this vehicle detail page view, as you could see, this was traditional, a very good year. Pandemic came in, everybody was scared, and all of a sudden it started climbing, and it was like, crazy. And I put a chart together that I thought you'd find interesting, but I put a chart together of this graph along with the stock price for Camping World, which is the largest retailer, publicly traded company. And I matched the stock price, basically matched this trend. So it started at $4 and ended up here in the highs, like at $45 per share. So it was all, you know, a leading activity indicator of the interest that was going on. So it was quite interesting, but you can see that looking back. Okay, let's go back and look at a couple more things here. So we've got up here, you can go to RV, you can look at VDP, we can go by dealer. You can scroll down here and pick the dealer that you want. You can pick a couple of different dealers if you want to, you know, aggregate just a few of them. You can do that. You can also up here, which, you know, as we get more dealers involved up here on additional, you can actually choose regions. We've broken it down into 6 different regions. So you could do that if you'd like. Again, you can look at it by travel trailer, fifth wheel motorhome. You can look at it by manufacturer. This condition one here is new or used. So you can, if you want to just look at used, like we showed you in those examples of the ballot stuffing, we just look at used for a particular dealer. In fact, what we did in terms of trying to analyze that is we went to that particular dealer, we clicked on used.
And sorry, I have to jump off the call, but just want to add that, you know, anything else that we need to add, we can definitely add, because we are taking the data not just from Google Analytics, but for some things we're also taking the data from the page, from the VDP page itself. So even if some data is not available in Google Analytics easily and it's available on the VDP page, and we need to scrap the data and show it, we can do that.
Thank
so
you,
it's
Ollie.
a combination of analytics as well as the VDP, any data on the VDP, especially for RVs, the make and manufacturer name does not come in the URL of the page for certain CRM. So we are taking it from the page. The only drawback is we cannot go back to a page which does not exist. So sometimes some data, like for example, someone asks for adventure RV, we will not have all of the data for make and condition for the old data. It will only be moving forward. Now, we don't have that problem in the autos because most of the information is there on the URL, but that's we have that flexibility of taking it. Okay, thank you.
So just to show you a little bit of cause and effect, and you can use this as being a detective, which is really what's kind of fun. So number one, based on anything you're doing with a particular client, you know, maybe you're featuring a particular vehicle, you want to see if it's actually getting any traffic, you know, you can come down here and look at that. So you can see if, you know, if I'm running display ads and we're really focused on, you know, let's say Tucson's, you know, you can see, hey, yeah, we're creating some VDP traffic over here, or if you're doing paid search. But if you want to go even deeper, then you can come down here to marketing channel. We have organic, other, Facebook, social, direct, paid search, referrals, display, email. And if I come down into other, it's always good to kind of just see what's being caught in other. And you can do that simply by clicking on other. And then you can come over here and see, yeah, there's some Facebook that gets caught in that sometime. But if you look at like this Drive Auto, or if you wanted to look at Bing, Yext, lot links, that's the one company we're kind of talking about. So let's look at lot links. So this is a third-party company, you know, so we have the ability, like Auto Trader or RV Trader or third-party sources, to see what kind of vehicle detail page views they're creating for. So here's lot links in the last 30 days, you know, where it's creating vehicle detail page views, you know, for what inventory. If I want to move it back over here and say, yeah, it's going to only be used, so that's okay. You can look at, you know, so you can look at a particular, you know, product if you want to go that direction. So usually in other or referral, it will have third-party sites that you could look at. Some of the interesting things that we've noticed, like, just get off that. When we look at some of the cause and effect we've noticed over time. So you're going to see social and Facebook. Sometimes those are going to be different. So you'll want to click on those, and then you can come over to source and see what's actually in there. So you might have, you know, sometimes you have some other people driving some Facebook ads into different things. Some interesting things we've seen from cause and effect is the more paid search we have, the more successful we're on paid search, the more organic traffic we have. And, you know, most people would always look at organic traffic as being, you know, all SEO driven. But what we've seen over time is as our budgets drop down in paid search, then our organic VDPs drop as well. And it's simply, you can think about it, right? I mean, a guy comes in on paid search, the next time he comes in through an organic deal. But he got initiated to the website and the dealership through paid search, and then the organic or even direct. We've also seen, when we run aggressive TV campaigns, we've seen direct VDPs rise during that period of time when we're on TV. You know, think about it. Somebody's on the couch watching TV. They type in the dealership's name after seeing an ad, or they remember the dealership's name. They go in and they type in Spear Hyundai South. And, you know, so they're getting a direct VDP off other marketing channels. So there really is an integrated effort that needs to be taking place as you look at these things. But the one thing we're seeing here again is leading activity indicators. The one thing everybody's doing that's consistent. So as all of us as marketers, when we're wanting to see how our clients are doing, you know, we can look at it, you know, each morning you can jump in here and see, you know, is there anything wrong? Is it, everything seem to be trending the right way? Why are things dropping off? You know, so you can really do a quick view of your client. It's a great dashboard, just like getting inside your car, you know, to see what's happening. So I encourage everybody to make sure we're using this to just make sure we're trending right. Any strategy you're doing, can you find some cause and effect in here? When we have our client meetings, you know, it's good to say, you know, we were focusing on these. Even David Wheeler has gone in from the production standpoint, looked at VDPs when he's done TV spots and things on particular vehicles, and shown that the VDPs on those vehicles went up during the TV time when they were advertising, you know, specials on, you know, Accords for, you know, $299 a month, you know, no payments for 90 days. All of a sudden, man, the VDPs were popping up on that particular vehicle. So you can really look at the cause and effect and see if we're really connecting. And then as a marketing company, be able to judge how we're doing. So that's kind of the entry look to smart analytics. Anybody have any questions?
Ron, how does everyone get access who doesn't have access now?
I have tried to make sure I send an email to everybody for access, but if you don't have one, let me know. I have sent, make sure. Nidra Patrick, Michelle B. Yeah, it looks like there's probably a few I have not. So if you don't have access, shoot me an email and then I'll get you access. I can add you. Fair enough?
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? So sometimes you're going to see things that don't make sense, and sometimes you have to question, okay, is there an issue with the data? So don't be afraid to say, wow, don't just show like a screenshot of something and throw it in a client meeting when it looks kind of odd. You need to find out, one, what caused that. And sometimes it can be just a data glitch that something happened and, you know, it's not reporting properly. So don't be afraid to challenge whether the data's, you know, has a glitch in it. If you see something that looks abnormal, good or bad, it's a good thing to look at.
Yeah, I check it, just so you guys know, I check like my stuff once a week, just to make sure that the spend is pretty much in line, to make sure, again, the analytics are reporting correctly. Across the board with OTT, Facebook is a little off most of the time, but with Google, all of those things, just to make sure, because there have been times that it hasn't been reporting. And I've just asked Avi and he looks into it, and then we go from there. But yeah, this way we're not caught off guard at the end of the month. So that's what I use it mostly for as well.
Absolutely. And you'll see it. We can get into some more of these other things, but we have competitive intelligence up here where we're scraping competitors' dealerships and we're looking at what they're pricing, their lowest pricing of certain vehicle types, and then how many they have in inventory. And it's all on one page. So you can look at it real quick and see, you know, if there's an issue there. We have reporting here that actually will, you know, you can look at, get down into actual, again, by dealer, and then you can get into the Facebook and Bing and analytics and iHub and Google AdWords and summary, and it's going to have click-through pricing and different pieces. So you can look at that when you get in there. It's pretty self-explanatory when you look at it. And over here, we've just started developing the VDPs per sale piece. Unfortunately, it's not really good information at the moment because nobody has inventory and the data is just all skewed in terms of how many VDPs it takes to sell something now compared to what it would in traditional, you know, normal times. So this is a piece that's in process.
Hey, Ron, what's the offerings?
Yeah, that's something Avi's working on, where it's just listing all the different products and things we do, and I'll have some information about it so people have, you know, there you go,
Okay.
you know, some information about the different pieces and things. So it's kind of an internal piece. And one of the things we're going to start doing, we do charge a lot of clients for this. We are going to start, and we have already started giving dealers access to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can manage dealers over here and give a particular dealer access to their information, so they can get in and look at it as a dashboard. But what we always find is they just rely on us to look at it and tell them what's going on and what's happening. So that's okay. But they do find it to be, we've got a lot of, particularly in the RV side, I think even the Superior Group, which was, you know, not skeptical, but they're always a little tough sell like any car dealer. But I think all of them have really come into the line that the VDPs is really important. And, you know, it's really the right thing to track, because a click is not a click. It just isn't. So it really seems to be working. So there we go. Anything else? Hope I didn't overwhelm everybody, but I think in the end, it's just simply trying to track the one thing that makes the biggest impact or the most important to our dealers. And that's, as marketers, are we getting the right people deep in the funnel to the right pages? And we do that with good marketing, good content, good headlines, good visuals. And we get them to the site. And the whole goal, remember, is that we want our dealer to be considered one of those 1.5 or 2 dealers that gets a visit, gets a phone call, gets a text, gets a lead, because people don't lead leads unless they're ready to do business. So they're just not willing to, it's not an equal trade until it gets to the point they're ready to buy. Then they're willing to trade their personal information to the dealer for a chance to buy a vehicle at a price that they want. So they don't do that very often in the early part because nobody wants to trade their information at that point. So just remember, it really is something that we have that I'm not aware of anybody else tracking like this at all. So it really is a strategic piece that we've got. And our goal, just to give you a little big picture, and then I'll close it off, is my goal is we get this really, and it's really about there, is I would love to get 50 to 100 Ford dealers across the country on it. You know, 50 to 100 Honda dealers on it, even if we are giving it to them for free, so that we could aggregate data, because nobody really knows how they're doing compared to other dealers. So all of a sudden, if they could look at, a Honda dealer could see how many, you know, VDPs they're getting from Facebook, and then they could look at how the 100 dealers are tracking. You know, you could say, well, I should probably be getting more off Facebook. I need to spend more on Facebook because of the 100 dealer aggregate. is averaging 500 or something, and I'm at 250. So there's a lot of great information that we, if you could share, or even a 20 group, get a 20 group where you could get all the dealers on it and be able to share, some of this kind of VDP data, which would be really powerful. And for us, the more people we can get on it, even if we give it to them at free, at some point they're going to be our client, because we're going to have such good information that we can give them insights that nobody else could give them. So the big picture is, can we use this tool for new marketing, new business? And if we can start building it into 20 groups or dealer groups, or just, Ford only, even if we just had 100 Ford dealers, the idea that you could knock on a Ford dealer and say, hey, do you have this kind of information? And they'd be going, what? Show me that again. So that's the big picture, is to really use this as an amazing marketing tool. All righty, everybody. Thank you for your time. That went a little bit longer, I think, probably than we thought it might, but that's okay. I'm sure nobody will want to listen to that recording again. It's too long, but that's okay.
Good info. It was really good info.
Yeah, good. I hope you all found it informative.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for attending.
Thanks,
you.
Ann.
Bye.
Bye.